I'm delighted to welcome this morning Tehilla Aloni, who is Bio-Orgonomy, who provides Bio-Orgonomy for business, which is an extraordinarily interesting topic to me. And we had a lovely one-to-one a couple of weeks ago, Tehilla, and it was very interesting. So introduce yourself to the audience and explain what Bio-Orgonomy is for business.
Okay, first of all, Elaine, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. Thank you so much. Introduce myself. Okay, so I'm Tehilla Aloni. I used to be the former Israeli Judo Champion when I was young, and then I became a boot camp instructor in the Israeli army for new recruits from disadvantaged backgrounds after I injured my knee. And I always say that helped me make the flip from individual athletes are very, very selfish and self-centered. They have to be, because it's a zero-sum game. And I had to make the transition to become a boot camp instructor for soldiers who hated my guts, basically. It was a thankless job, but it was the next stage of my evolution, you know, turning me from someone who's selfish to selfless. At least I started becoming that way anyway. It's a journey. So that was the beginning of my spiritual journey. I then became a homeopath, and I've been doing homeopathy for 20 plus years. I've got my own clinic, and in the past few years, I've also started doing Bio-Orgonomy. Now, the way I see it, the world of business today is one of the darkest, densest, most selfish places. And my intention is actually to infuse that with spirituality, raise that, and by raising that, we actually raise the entire world.
Completely agree. It's just amazing, and it's an interesting title. Is it a type Bio-Orgonomy? Is a title that you've given, or is it something you came across?
Bio-Orgonomy is basically the extrasensory technique that I use. And I created my business. It's called Bio-Orgonomy for Business. Usually people use this technique for treating personal issues. But from what I've seen in homeopathy, in my homeopathic practice, that women would come to me with, they would come because of physical symptoms. And when they got a good remedy that addressed all their physical, mental, and emotional issues, I also saw that they were making more money. And then I understood, not only in theory, but in practice, that being healthy is a state of abundance. It's having it all. It's being happy, having great relationships, succeeding, like it's being in the zone, what I call it. And that's how I started seeing things on a spiritual level. And then I added the Bio-Orgonomy, which is actually another layer. So the way I see it, especially solopreneurs or people who own small businesses, our business is an extension of who we are. Okay, when our business is doing well, we're doing well. Our business is our baby. If our baby is not doing well, we're literally not sleeping in the night. So it's my understanding that in order for our business to prosper, we must be thriving. So I always take a holistic approach. I work with businesswomen from around the world. First of all, I give them a homeopathic remedy, which is what I call the passive income. And that's changing them and helping them evolve. And then I use Bio-Orgonomy, which is an extrasensory technique. And the basis of this technique, and most spiritual, schools, I'd say, is that everything has energy fields, whether it's a person, a plant, a business, a bank account, a relationship. Now, these businesses, they actually nurture and support their subjects. If these energy fields are disrupted, that's when we start seeing problems. The business is not making money, people become sick, et cetera, et cetera. So what I do with the Bio-Orgonomy on the first stage, when I work with the people I work with, first of all, I make sure that all their energy fields are intact. And if not, I can just fix it. Thank God.
And how do you do that? There's so much, there's a huge explosion this year. I've never seen so many products come on the market, so many tools, healing devices, frequency devices. I've never seen so many, and they've just suddenly exploded on the market. So do you use any of these gadgets and gizmos and products, or is it something you've mentioned, sort of intuition and how you sense things?
Okay, first of all, I think because there's such a huge need for these things that we have, you know, all these different solutions, and I think each solution is valid, you know, based on the results, whatever works. The way I use Bio-Orgonomy is, in Bio-Orgonomy, our eyelids are considered the most sensitive muscles in our body. So I use my eyelids as indicators. So I can say to myself, I'll ask a question. I say, if I move my fingers, my hand horizontally and my eyelid flickers, that's a yes. Or if I move it vertically, that's a no. Or if I'm working with a woman and, for example, I have this woman who has a tourism company, and one of her employees was stealing money from the business. So I could just go over the employees and my eyelid flickered on the employee that was stealing the money. And I could see also that it was because his son was ill and he needed the money for medical treatment. So, and then I could also see how we could find a solution that was respectful of the situation and of who he was. And that's all using my eyelids, because I get information and I call it like two-step verification. I just check and see if what I see, if the images I see or the information I get is right or wrong.
That's absolutely fascinating. I know a lot of listeners will understand about kinesiology and muscle testing, and also dowsing, two techniques on looking at strength and truth and not truths and so on. So eyelids, I've never heard of eyelids twitching in this context. So it's incredible. Were you taught that, or is that something that you've just kind of discovered that you can do?
Well, it all started when I went to this Chinese medicine woman, and she used Bio-Orgonomy as a tool for diagnosis. She had, you know, many tools, you know, being into Chinese medicine. And I told her, wow, what are you doing exactly? So explain to me about Bio-Orgonomy. And she told me, she recommended a teacher. And I went into YouTube and I searched this teacher, and she was giving a lecture about how to, it's called The Pain of Love. She was giving a tool about how to use Bio-Orgonomy in order to heal relationships. And I was like, as soon as I saw it, was just like, you know, when something like it fit into the socket, I felt like, you know, wow, this is what I've been waiting for my entire life. It was just so right for me at the time. It was just, I was so ready for it. You know, when they say when the student is ready, the teacher comes. So I was just sitting there in front of the computer learning this technique. And I was sitting there treating every couple I knew, all the relationships, and I just loved it. And then I started learning it, and it's been amazing ever since. And the great thing about it is that you get the basic tool, and then you discover more and more things that you can do with it, more and more things that, like energy fields. And for example, one of the principles that I discovered using Bio-Orgonomy was that, you know, that in order to manifest something, we have to send a coherent message to the universe. And especially businesswomen and mothers, you know, they're always sending this mixed message, you know, partly guilt and et cetera, et cetera. And that's like the basic of having a coherent message. But I have this woman that I'm working with, and she's got a cosmetics oil company. And she came to me, and the business wasn't making money, and we tried to figure out why it was. So when I looked, what I noticed was that her husband at the time wasn't making enough money, and he was subconsciously sabotaging her income because he was threatened by her success. So what I suggested was that she make him feel that he was part of the business, ask his advice, make him feel important. And once she did that, and he felt that her success was actually his success, not only was the business making money, but also their relationship improved. And then I understood from that all the key stakeholders, the interests of all the key stakeholders in our lives and in our business has to be aligned. And the best way to do that is if we align it with the higher good. So we create win-win situations, win-win solutions, and sustainable relationships. So when I work with the businesswoman, also one of the things that I do is I constantly, we look for solutions to make everything aligned, so all the interests of everyone is aligned, and then things flow much easily.
That is absolutely brilliant, fascinating. Well, I'm speechless. It also brings together everything I believe in as well, which is why I particularly align with what you do, because over the years, I've helped many people reverse cancer, as I did for myself some years ago. And when you have people in your community, close, intimate relationships, whatever, if they aren't aligned with you, you won't heal. And I've experienced that time and time again. And sadly, I've witnessed women die because their husbands have been not supportive in the way that the woman requires, and they've died. I mean, it's horrible, absolutely horrible. So I've created a program which looks at all of this, and as you say, it's holistic. It's not one thing or another, and unless everybody's happy, nobody's happy. It's
Totally.
not difficult to grasp that concept, is it? But why do we struggle? Why do we get in our own way?
I think it's because the way I see it is my understanding, and also according to Bio-Orgonomy, and also according to the Old Testament, by the way, we're actually carrying things 4 generations back. So the conflicts and the crises and everything we meet in our lives, partly is because of past lives, partly is because of issues that we had early in our lives, but it's also partly because we're actually here to fix things for the previous 4 generations. So many times I could check issues and I see that the reason for a certain issue is because of someone's great-grandmother. And what I love about Bio-Orgonomy is that it's not only a tool that you can see and you can diagnose the issue, but we can also fix it. So we can see why the husband, for instance, is coming from wherever he's coming from, and why the wife has got her issues. And I see I'm so privileged to see immediate results, and I love that. And I think it's because I think the main thing, if you want to be a healer, is to have a clean intent. So I'm constantly working on that, and I just say, okay, I want to be a vessel. Whatever comes through me, I just want to do good. So the technique is important, but the intent, I think, is the highest thing.
Absolutely, intention is so important in anything we do, because a knife can be useful for cutting things up and very useful tool, but it can also kill. So it's the intention of what you do with something, isn't it, which is really, really important. And that's the scary thing for me, because we've got so many things, wonderful things in the world, but we also have so many things that aren't so good at the moment, and we have to row our own boat. We have to look after ourselves. We can't rely on anybody else. The days I grew up in, the days where put up, shut up, get on with it. So I'm quite resourceful, but I realize the older I get, the more unusual I am, because so many people today are reliant upon other people, reliant upon doctors. Take this pill, fix it, press this button, on the digital thing. So we have outsourced, by happenstance, by media pressure, whatever it is, everything to other people. But when we take responsibility for ourselves, but then because people have been brainwashed, it's not always easy for people to do that, is it? Because if you have this belief and then somebody's telling you something else, you've got conflict immediately, because you each believe different things. So how do you kind of unravel that piece? Because when you have people who are entrenched into a certain belief and somebody else, and they're not communicating, so where do you start with that?
First of all, I totally agree with what you say. The way I see it, our life, especially the challenges that we face in our lives, are actually there in order for us to develop our unique skill set, for us to bring our unique light into the world. Now, I think the worst thing that we can do to people, and I've also experienced that myself, unfortunately, is have them doubt their inner voice. That's the worst thing we can do, because our inner voice is the connection to our soul. It's basically the whisper of our soul. That's our power. And similarly to a small child, when the more you kind of give it a stage, we say in Hebrew, the more you listen to it and you encourage it to talk, then the louder the voice will become. And the same thing is with our inner voice. The more we encourage it and support it and listen to it, the louder it becomes. And our connection to ourselves becomes stronger. And from when we connect to ourselves, we're basically connecting to the source. And that's where we have sort of information coming in, we have the intuition, we have everything. The connection to the source is like, it's the basic, it's connection to life. and everyone has grown up in different circumstances, but I think the basis is that we have to have faith that everything we encounter is actually for our own good in order to help us to grow. And if we are encountering a certain issue, at the same time, we are also given the strength in order to grow. We won't get a lesson that will be basically too hard for us. We say in Hebrew, you don't put on the donkey more than it can carry. Okay, so it's always having faith and just listening to that inner voice.
Again, that so resonates with me. When I get people come to me who've had a cancer diagnosis in particular, I can help people with any condition pretty much as you can, but I've got a name for myself with cancer because I fixed my own stage 4 cancer in well, 9 years ago now, plus other things that have happened, kidney disease and so on. So it's not what happens to you, in my view, it's how you deal with it. And having faith, the faith is such a huge piece, because if you don't believe you're going to heal, you won't heal. And again, I've seen that time and time again, people doubting themselves again and again and again, getting in our own way, is the modern kind of say on it. So when we have a deep belief that everything's going to be okay, all right, stuff happens, we all have to, deal with our stuff, whatever that may be, but how we deal with it, how we respond to it, will then give us the outcome. And I see it again and again and again. And I'm sure did you give talks? Is your clinic one-to-one? Do you see audiences? Can you tell in the audience who's likely to suffer more than others?
Well, first of all, I think it's amazing what you did, how you listened to your inner voice and overcame such a serious disease. And first, I'd like to address, there's a term called practicing faith. And faith, it's all about practice. It's every time we get like, sort of like a bigger hurdle, and then you practice and you jump over it. So I think a huge thing about faith is that you practice and you need to choose it time and time and time again. And that's just part of growing. So that's the one thing. As far as the way I work, I prefer working one-on-one, to be honest, because the whole idea of homeopathy and Bio-Orgonomy is individualization. So I do give talks, but they're more general. But I think that it's just to give inspiration, the talks, and just I talk about usually the importance of taking a holistic approach and just try to get people to kind of think out of the box. But the real work I do, where I see the most results at this stage anyway, is one-on-one. I always say, I'm constantly growing and exploring, and it's a journey. So I don't know what will be my calling in the future, but this is what I do now. Yeah,
it's amazing. And as you say, you're always growing. Every day I'm learning something new. Every day is a school day, isn't it? And what we believe today and what we practice today, it might change tomorrow with a new piece of information or a new anecdotal thing that's happened. Somebody's recovered through doing some unusual technique or whatever. It doesn't matter what the thing is, but it's as you say, it's firstly the intention, and then secondly the belief in my book. And it happens in all walks of life, whether you're running a business, whether you're healing from some kind of crisis, whether it's a relationship. It's the same kind of pattern, isn't it? It's in the same things that we need to be aware of.
Totally. And you reminded me of a conversation I had the other day with a friend, and she was asking me about a previous relationship that she had, and she asked me whether that person grew from the relationship, because she felt that he wasn't growing. And I told her, of course he's growing. Anyone who's alive is growing. The question is if you're growing through pain or through choice. And the choice just makes it easier and faster. But if you're alive, you're constantly growing. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. When I look back on my life, so many things have happened, and I haven't always listened and observed the lessons. I had breast cancer twice before I then had stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. Clearly, I wasn't listening. I was just kind of play acting. And as women, and as strong, independent women, who I've always been the breadwinner pretty much. And I've always been, as I say, brought up to put up, shut up, get on with it type of thing. So we have this armor around us as women. We know we're mothers, we're lovers, we're leaders, we're, you know, whatever we are. But also we're sensitive, and it's finding the right balance. And I think a lot of women, myself included, have got ourselves in a situation where we're considered more men than women in terms of our energy. And I think that gets a lot of us into trouble with the communication. I had my star chart, what do they call it? You read a chart, don't you? So this lovely lady, I'm hosting a retreat in the Algarve this year, and I'm bringing over an astrologer, Isan Lewis from the UK, amazing lady. And yesterday she read my birth chart, and communication came up again and again. Communication, past lives, and I decided a couple of years ago that I'm going to write another book about communication based on my family, because I remember my great-great-grandparents very, very vaguely, and I've now got grandchildren. I'm in the middle, and the communication between us is hopeless. It's really not good, and a lot of it stems from past lives. So and I've not been learning the lessons quick enough in this life, but apparently I'm here to fix the communication piece worldwide, apparently, according to my star chart. So there we go. So there's all this interesting stuff. Homeopathy was part of my recovery from stage 4 cancer. So everything that you do, everything that you practice just speaks so clearly to me. And I'm going to be delighted to share this. And I'm hoping that you're going to come and speak to our Friday Health Club members as well. I don't know if you've booked in or not, but it would be an honour to have you come and speak to our members.
Thank you so much. I'd be honored to I just have to see if it works out with the Sabbath.
Oh, of course. Well, it's Friday. Oh, yes. That may not work.
Yeah.
No, actually, this is true, because we're 11 till 12:30 on a Friday, UK time, and you're a couple of hours ahead, aren't you?
Yeah, the Sabbath is like the biggest deal.
Yes,
yes. You know, for religious Jews, it's like the whole week we're anticipating the Sabbath.
Right.
And that's when we disconnect from the material plane, and that's just our time for spiritual growth. In theory, at least, you know, it's difficult, but that's what we try to do.
Well, this recording is going to be shared with my members anyway, so they will be exposed to you, shall we say. So how do people get hold of you? If I can see on the screen, we've got bio4biz.com. So anybody listening to this, it's bio4biz.com. So is that the best way to contact you?
The best way is to go on my website, leave me a message. I'm always delighted to meet new people. I you know, in my 20s, I used to go backpacking, and it was amazing because I just came without an agenda, and I was relaxed and open. And then the most positive synchronicities used to happen, and I felt that the universe sent me exactly the people that I needed to meet. And today, I've got children and a business, so I can't go backpacking, but this is as close as it gets. I meet people online, and I just see where it takes us, and I love it. The more open I am, I see the better things happen.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been a great pleasure listening to just a little snippet of you, your life, and how you help people. And hopefully this podcast will go out there, and people will contact you to get more help. That's been an absolute delight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elaine. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I'm honored to be on your podcast.